Let's talk about the second to last game, which was also a really awesome affair. I mean, this was the game of the day. Knicks-Sixers. We talked about this as being one of the toughest series to predict. We both ended up going Knicks in 7, and they won this game, but probably not how you expect. Jalen Brunson had a really rough shooting night, and it was a collective effort that was so impressive. So, what did you take away from this game one?
That's the right word. Those 2 ones, collective effort. That's why I took the Knicks to win this series, man. The Knicks have a great number one offensive engine in Jalen Brunson, but they are a great team. They are a great unit top to bottom. And uh, I think their effort, their grit, their tenacity, that's what won them the game. I thought they defended Joel Embiid exceptionally well. I'm so thankful that he is or not fully healthy, but I'm so glad he's not out for the rest of this series.
Looked bad. It looked bad after the sickest play you could possibly do.
Oh my gosh, dude. I lost it. That was so sick. A self-oop
insane.
jam and then right on cue, man, right as you get excited.
Yeah.
So I was just glad Embiid was okay, but I think the formula for what the Knicks did against Embiid is great. I mean, you play him physically, you play him hard, you wear him down throughout this game. Again, to win this series, I think against the Knicks, I think that you need MVP level Embiid every single night. I'm talking a cool 30, efficiently, playmaking, dominating the glass. It's going to take a hellacious effort from Embiid. But I really thought they defended him exceptionally well, settling for jumpers, just making him work, trying to finish through contact. He puts up 29 points, 8 boards, and 6 assists on 8 of 22 from the field, 2 of 8 from deep. But the thing to me, Carson, he makes his last field goal in this game in the third quarter with 5 minutes remaining. He goes 0 of 5 in the fourth quarter, and I still do think the Sixers have more offensive skill and talent surrounding Joel Embiid. I think that's just a fact. But the Knicks just have more dog and more heart in them, man. They outworked Philly 55-33 on the glass. They won. Josh Hart, a big 10 boards in this game, man. Huge imperative. He comes up with the biggest.
It was 13.
Yeah, it might have been more than it was double digits. He comes down with the crucial game-winning rebound that seals this thing and ends it for good. His shot was also on. That was the real surprising part about this for the Knicks is it wasn't Jalen Brunson just taking over, supernova doing it. It was Deuce McBride stepping up, playing huge minutes. Big game for him. 5 3-pointers made, 21 points. The Knicks were plus 37 in Deuce McBride minutes. Carson and I, longtime Deuce McBride enthusiasts. Defensively, as a dog, as a guy who's just going to work, but a huge offensive game from him. And, I want to give a ton of credit for Philadelphia on how they defended Jalen Brunson, too. I thought really getting over screens deliberately, the ball pressure they applied, and really just playing Brunson physically, man. I thought everybody from Maxey to Harris to Oubre, I thought they did a really good job on the perimeter. But I think it's going to be about the Sixers out-hustling New York, Carson. Like Embiid and Jokic, these are guys traditionally normally that you don't have to divert a ton of attention to the boards, right? The Knicks are just unique because all of their guys are hustling so hard, and then they're such a physical and imposing interior team. It's going to be hard to win the glass advantage on them, and I think that's really where the Knicks have an advantage. Just their guys are all going to crash, and they're big as hell in the front court, man. When with Robinson and Hardenstein. So that's really the interesting dynamic that I'm looking for the rest of the series, man, is how much more can Philadelphia really exert themselves physically and try harder? And then is the offensive skill gap going to, even itself out? Because I don't think Philadelphia's surrounding offensive pieces, Harris, Oubre, Batum, guys like that. Buddy Hield had a 0 piece. I don't think they had the best games, and I think that's going to even itself out. So I'm just really looking at that dynamic, the heart and hustle and grit of this Knicks team versus a team that I think does have a drastic offensive skill advantage. But bottom line, if the Knicks can limit Joel Embiid the way they did today, because again, Maxey pulled his weight, man. He had 33 points. It was a great game for Tyrese Maxey. I mean, he kept him in this one. If they can force Embiid to do this every night and wear him down throughout this series and force him to settle for jumpers, I mean, I don't think the Sixers have a chance, man. They need superstar MVP level Joel Embiid if they want to have a chance to knock off the Knicks in this series, because I just think the Knicks have too many dogs.
They have so many good players, dude. And it really is a unique advantage when you have 8 guys who play in this game and every single one of them had their own distinct impact. And you're like genuinely confident in every single one of them playing in these playoff environments. Nobody else in this playoff field, I wouldn't say, has that sort of X factor.
Do you
just
think
having that many dogs who play hard, who do winning things? It's so special.
What about Minnesota? Do you think Minnesota's up there?
Minnesota's got a lot of dudes, but in some ways it feels like some of their dudes have more weaknesses. Like, what if Kyle Anderson takes a couple too many possessions for himself? I think they have a lot of good, impactful guys, but New York is special. And the most trite cliche in sports, which is almost never true, is they just wanted it more. Like, if somebody uses that as their analysis for a game, they probably weren't paying that much attention. But nobody wants it more than the New York Knicks, man. Like, this is next level superhuman effort. 23 offensive rebounds in this game. And yeah, they're big in the front court, but like, they're playing Josh Hart at the 3, right? Josh Hart is 6'5". He just is like one of the best positional rebounders that we've ever seen in the history of this game. And it was an all-time collective effort from this supporting cast. The spot up shooting was insane, first of all, and that's a big difference that we talked about between this year and last year. Part of it was some dudes went ice cold. Last year, Quentin Grimes couldn't make a shot. Josh Hart was really bad. RJ Barrett was really bad from deep. But they've put together a much stronger group of shooters. Deuce McBride is consistently nails. OG is consistently nails. Dante DiVincenzo is one of the most lethal volume 3-point shooters in the league. And you felt the difference of that dynamic in this game. Down the stretch, Brunson, who had struggled to score efficiently, draws 2 defenders on a couple possessions, kicks it over to Josh Hart, nails a spot up 3, kicks it over to OG Anunoby, nails a spot up 3, and that's kind of the game right there. But there are so many role players in this game who just deserve medals, who deserve standing ovations for the Knicks in this game. I was almost moved to tears, Logan. It's like a Disney movie watching this team play. They just play so damn hard. Josh Hart is a hero when he is nailing his spot up jumpers, and that clutch 3, like when the shot clock was winding down to actually clinch the game, that was just ridiculous. He was aggressive going at Embiid, and he did absolutely dominate on the glass, but he does so many things well. Smart passer, guy who can push and transition. When he's knocking down those spot up jumpers, just the ultimate winning basketball player who I want on my team. You mentioned Deuce McBride, absolutely swung the game with that infusion of offense. I flagged him as a guy who potentially could be someone who plays over Hart if he's not knocking down those spot up jumpers, because Deuce, although he's conceding some size and rebounding value, is such a good shooter and is such a good point of attack defender. They had them both out there and they were both fantastic. And he took on that Maxey matchup in significant stretches. Maxey got his. He was great in this game, but I thought Deuce guarded him well. I thought he had a really nice combination of the quickness and just that constant motor that makes him such a good perimeter defender. And Mitchell Robinson was a game changer in this one, dude. Isaiah Hartenstein has been phenomenal this year, and holding down this Knicks team as basically like their lone 5 when Robinson was hurt, he did an awesome job. And there are so many things he does well as a passer, as a touch shot finisher, as an overall defender and rebounder. But I think Robinson is the best matchup for Embiid. And you talk about how Embiid didn't have a field goal in the fourth quarter. That's because of Mitchell Robinson. He is just one of those rare guys who was huge enough to match up physically, and he did a phenomenal job on him. Embiid went at him 5 times in those last 6 minutes, took 4 tough jumpers, and got fouled once. So I think we're going to see a lot of Mitchell Robinson in this series because of what he can do with Embiid in single coverage, matching up physically, having the length to affect his jumpers. But then also what he does as a help defender with the 4 blocks in this game, what he does as a drop defender out of pick and roll, made some impactful plays, and just his constant effort, 7 offensive rebounds in this game. He totally changed the dynamics, and the Knicks are so fortunate to have him back healthy now, because he's obviously been playing his way into shape, but I wasn't sure if he could step up and handle a playoff matchup like this just with how little he's been out on the court this season, and he immediately did, and I thought he was phenomenal. All those guys swung this game. You don't win this game without those guys stepping up. Like, the bench was huge in this one. Winning a game where Jalen Brunson really struggles, and also Tyrese Maxey is excellent. Like, that's huge. You think if your second option offensively soundly outplays our first, we shouldn't be able to win that game. And the way you win it is shoot the lights out, the supporting cast, play your ass off, defend your ass off, harass them the entire game, fight for every 50-50 ball and win. And that's what the Knicks do. And that's just a really unique formula. And it's super, super fun to watch.
It's very fun to watch. And it's just poetic, at points, man. You can outwork another team to your abilities. But that's why I would give Philly, man, a real shot in the rest of this series if they can continually disrupt Jalen Brunson. Like, I talk about the ball pressure. I talk about them playing him physically. It was also, you talk about giving dynamic looks at guys. Like, there's no real way to defend Nikola Jokic, but you just want to mix up the coverages enough so he's not getting comfortable and just making the same read over and over again. So I think you do the same thing with Brunson. If it's blitzing him on this possession, if it's switching off when you don't normally switch off, just giving him different looks and really just diverting a ton of defensive attention to him. And it worked. Like, they were able to disrupt him a little bit. And I'll give a lot of credit to Philly, like, on how much they dug and helped on him and how active their hands were when he actually got into the lane. If Philly can disrupt Brunson like this, I mean, like, the Knicks shouldn't win a game like this at all. No. I mean, it is outlier shooting. And, we talked about how we thought the Knicks were well-equipped to withstand not having Julius Randle out here because of, an OG Anunoby, because of this great depth, adding Bojan Bogdanovic. But again, this should not have been a win for the Knicks. It was all heart and effort. And so if Philly can disrupt Brunson enough like this and Embiid can play a little better, I mean, and it's not going to be easy. And I think a lot of it is just so dependent on his shot. Like, that's what's frustrating, man, is when Embiid's shot isn't falling, he can, settle for him. He'll settle for a three. He'll miss. He can settle for a mid-range jumper. And then it's like, he loses a little bit of confidence because they can play him physically. We need better Embiid, but I think that the Sixers have enough offensive skill that I believe in, where if they disrupt Brunson like this, I think this is a pretty sound formula for them getting some easy wins in this series.
This is not a sustainable formula for the Knicks to win 3 of the next 6 games. It's not. No matter how hard you play, no matter how good you are defensively, the gap in star shot creation in this game was significant because, again, Maxey played phenomenally well in this one, even with some tough draws. OG and Deuce primarily splitting the assignment. Like, those dudes present their unique challenges. Deuce with his quickness and just his motor. OG with his massive size and length. And at the same time, like Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, those are good drop defenders. You saw Brunson expose Robinson a little bit when he was brought out into space or in transition. He's just too quick downhill, and Maxey is always great there. But he was getting that dribble penetration. There was a stretch in the third where OG was really trying to force him away from Embiid's screens, and Maxey just rejected the screen, and he's too quick, and he got good looks, and his pull-up jumper was solid in this one. He's just really tough to stop. And he is what makes Philly so dangerous, and along with a dialed-in Embiid, the Embiid we know in the regular season, makes their ceiling so high, higher than the Knicks. It's that you simultaneously have these 2 elite offensive forces. Embiid doesn't have to be their leading scorer every single night, and yet he can also be resoundingly the best player on the floor. And the Knicks do have the burden of Brunson having to create so much. Like, the guys around him carried the load in every other way. But when it comes to, all right, get me a good shot out of pick and roll, that falls on Jalen Brunson every possession. And I got to give big props to Kelly Oubre, man. My biggest cause for pause in picking this series. Oh, nice. A little bit of rhyming there, I guess. Not intentional. But my concern was the load that Brunson has to carry, period, point blank, but specifically doing it against a team that guarded him very well in the regular season and has really good personnel to guard him. Oubre guards this man about as well as anybody in the league, man. He is so long, 6'7", with a 7'3" wingspan, and simultaneously so quick. He can really affect Brunson with those rear view contests out of pick and roll. In isolation, he's got great hands, forced him into several turnovers. He's just disruptive. And Brunson is in a spot where it's like, okay, I kind of got to hunt Tyrese Maxey at times. Maxey also has these really long arms. And so even though he's not considered a great point of attack defender, he's not bad. And he has the length to also affect Brunson as a trailer. He blocked a shot on a rear view contest. So even when Embiid is in a deep drop, which he was in some of this game, you think that's where Brunson eats. Brunson is like the best guard in the league inside the paint, outside the restricted area. He made more shots there than anybody not named Jokic at a 53% clip. But when you have guys who can affect him with their length, with those rear view contests, like that changes the dynamics and that takes away where he is most effective on the floor. Batum is huge and super long. I prefer Oubre because of the quickness element, but like Batum guarded him pretty well in stretches. So they give him trouble, man. And in the regular season, he averaged 22 points per game on 40% shooting against Philly. He had like one absolute clunker, and Oubre was on him for most of that game. So I was concerned about that. But down the stretch, again, he draws the second defender. He creates good looks for his teammates. They knock him down. And ultimately, part of this was his shot was just off. He had to take a lot of tough shots, but he missed some of those signature Brunson mid-range looks that you normally are confident in him making. So I think this is a war. I expected this to be a war. And we flagged, like, as the keys coming in, what version of Joel Embiid do we get? And can Brunson carry this load? And as of right now, those are both still real question marks. Neither of those were like decisively answered in game one. Embiid came out of the gate super aggressive, but progressively took tougher and tougher shots, became more reliant on that jumper, maybe lost a little bit more confidence in that knee after the scare that he had off the self-oop. But also, I just think Robinson was the best counter to him. And then Brunson, again, didn't have his best stuff, and they guarded him really well. So my view hasn't really changed on this series.
Mine hasn't either. And just to add on about how they can really affect Brunson too, even when he gets into that crab dribble, like out of the pick and roll too, those guys' arms are so long, they can pick his pocket in different ways where, other guys just can't get to that ball. And Brunson's a smaller guy, so they can. That's the good news for Philly, in my opinion, is I don't expect Embiid to play this poorly. On the flip side, I also don't expect Brunson to be off like this, but I think Philly is well equipped to defend him. But a lot of it is just effort fixes where I think that, Philly can just perform better. If that's crashing the glass harder, again, trying to out-effort the Knicks I'm not saying they're going to do it,
Philly
but
played hard, though. Like, Philly grinded defensively. The Knicks are just different. And also, like, they are huge, and they're always an elite rebounding team. And Josh Hart is one of one.
This kind of discrepancy I'm saying is something that I think you can at least close the gap on to make it better in the future. Like they get outscored 27-11 in fast break points. They get outscored 26-8 in second chance points. Any game where you're losing the second chance battle by 18 points, it's just a tough showing. So I think a lot of this are simple fixes for Philly. That is just by more effort, more energy, you can close this gap and make this series tight. I think we're getting 7 out of this one, man. I think this is, like you said, man, it's an absolute war.
Yeah. Philly has the upside to get it done, maybe even quicker than that. I do think that they have more high-end basketball talent on this team. When you think about the Maxey Embiid combo, and Tobias Harris, like, legitimately is a better guy in terms of creating his own shot than anybody other than Brunson on that Knicks roster. And he was just a non-factor in this game. And part of the reason that I thought coming into this series, they weren't going to be able to guard Brunson, or they weren't going to be able to guard Maxey with OG as much, was because when they did that in the last matchup, Julius Randle was healthy. And so they matched up physically across the board because they had another big forward out there. And I thought, well, now if you do that, that means that Tobias Harris is being guarded by a Josh Hart or a Dante DiVincenzo or a Jalen Brunson. And he was guarded by all those guys throughout this game on different possessions, and he never attacked. And I do wonder if there's more to untap there. Like, he is an efficient mismatch attacker. Everybody hates Tobias Harris. I get it. Deserved it in this game because he didn't really do much, but he does have that ability to just physically leverage that size advantage, get to his turnarounds. He was a 74th percentile post-up scorer. I wonder if we see more of that down the line, because if he's not going to do that, then it's like, all right, why don't I get a really good spot-up shooter like Nick Batum, who's also going to defend way better out there? Not to say that Tobias Harris is a bad defender, but like Nick Batum is awesome there. And that's why Tobias Harris didn't come back in the fourth quarter until there was like a minute and a half left. Like, he sat on the bench for a good stretch. So I think this is an awesome series. I think it is very much still up in the air. Brunson and Embiid both have to play better, but I love this Knicks team, dude. I really, really do. Like, this is one of my favorite teams ever. You just don't see teams that play together like this, that play hard like this, that do all the little things. They have such a special energy. it's so different than any of the like previous Julius Randle led Knicks teams. It really is. They have such an awesome collective mentality and they play really, really fun basketball.